Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Steel City Underground podcast. We're sponsored today by the NFL Photo Store. More about that as we continue to discuss what's going on with the WTF for this week. My name is Terry Fletcher, flying solo this week, and just kind of going over some of the things in week 11, what actually happened out there. Well, one of the things that was helpful for the Steelers, maybe not as much as we've heard from Big Ben, he doesn't like playing on Thursdays, but we got to play on Thursday this week, and so last week actually. And so now the players have a 10-day break, if you will, so they got to have their weekend off. And as we watched everyone else play the game, and then our next game up will be our Green Bay team. So and they're not doing so hot now without Aaron Rodgers. So we've definitely got something to look forward to there. But let's take a look at what happened in Week 11. So starting with our game, what a game. I mean, there's nothing you can say about it that wasn't just exciting, except for the first half. The first half was just as frustrating as could be, again, settling for field goals. We even hear Big Ben in his post-presser say that at the, halftime, he went into the locker room and basically challenged the offense. He said, come on, guys, somebody has to make a play. There was just so many drops again, and I know it was cold out there. You could tell it was cold, and so that ball comes in pretty hard to the chest, but just drops between even AB and Martavis, and it was starting to look a little bit ugly. But in saying that, what a game, because then looking at our turnover, we had 4 of them in the game, 4 interceptions. It was obviously a very daunting and big stage for Mariota, who I really like that quarterback, but he really struggled in this game. And I was surprised even when listening to some of the media people saying that they even had a chance against the Steelers at home. It's just like, you guys, do you see the teams that they've actually beaten? Those teams that they've beaten were, subpar 500 teams. But again, you never know. Any given, like they say, any given Sunday, even though it's Thursday, you can definitely have beat any team. So anyway, it was definitely a game to watch right down to the end. I think one of the most interesting parts of it, one of the WTF moments, and this is a good one, that was the Antonio Brown helmet catch. I mean, this player, he's on his third touchdown of the day, so he had a hat trick, but to just get that fadeaway into that right back corner of the end zone by Ben and just truly come up with that ball. He pinned it to his helmet with his left hand. Now remember, Antonio Brown is a lefty, so that actually gave him an advantage, the strength in that arm to be able to pin that ball to his helmet. But just to be able to do that and come up with it and then secure it after the fact was just so impressive. So anyway, it was just a what the F was that, AB? That was awesome. And then one of the things that excuse me, one of the things that I thought was an interesting rough WTF moment was, so AB fumbles the ball, and this is before the first half was over, and Martavis Bryant, who had been just, I don't want to say terrible. I know I kind of knock on Martavis a little bit, and I know, my Steel City Underground folks, they kind of get on me about that, not, thinking he hasn't earned his Killer Bee title, along with the 3 or 4 of them and everything, but it just took him so long to get his head back in the game, and I still think he's struggling. But Ben continues to show his trust in him, his faith in him, even with some of the drops, even with the lack of fight for the ball. And I'm comparing him to Antonio Brown. I mean, he's, when we see AB go up and just fight for that ball, even now Juju Smith-Schuster, he goes up, and that's a big kid, and his blocking is awesome. And then we get Martavis, who just has the physicality to do what he needs to do out there and the speed that nobody has, and we're still not seeing him have a game. But in saying that, after, drops and not making those plays, AB fumbles, Martavis recovers the ball, last 2 minutes before halftime. He rushes to it, gets on it. Then we rush to the snap the ball. The refs didn't apparently know the rules because the player who fumbles the ball is the only one that can recover the ball. In that scenario, what happened? So we dodged a bullet there. We were able to snap it. What was kind of funny just watching the game is that the refs might have thought, oh shoot, we missed one, which to me was them sitting there saying, okay, WTF, what do we do? Because after we snapped it and then made a play, or basically advanced it to the next down, they took a timeout, or they stopped play to talk about it. And you're like, well, you can't talk about it now because we've already had another play take place. So that's why they rush up to get that ball going. So we definitely dodged a bullet on that one. But just to see that continue to go, that was definitely kind of funny. And then I think one of the WTF moments that everybody had, it was even trending on social media, was you're watching the game and we're getting down towards the end and we're scoring a lot of points. And let's face it, we put a 40 burger up there, but all of a sudden you see Ben doing his audibles, and now with that terrible camera, I hate the camera on the field. I know some of you like it, but I don't like that sky cam because you can't tell where the player is. You can only see, it's great for an interception because you can see going right into the player, but as far as like seeing where the running back is, so you can see how many yards they got, how many they need to go, or we need to see overhead or the side. Being right down on the field is just not helpful from a TV game. It's just really hard to see what's going on. Now if we had the fog that's been coming in on Thursday nights, that I get. They're trying to get so that, because you can't see it if the fog comes in, but it's just so hard to see that. And I know some of the guys out there, okay, I won't be sexist, I'll say even gals who play Madden, it looked like a video game shot. It just looks like the players in the field are not real. And so I had definitely a hard time with it. But just getting back to the WTF moment, as we're watching the game, and Ben's doing his snap and his audibles, and he's basically like, the hurry, or before he says, blue 80 or whatever he says Dilly Dilly, and we're like, did he just say that from the Bud Light commercial? So yes he did. And then it just became viral, and it went on every morning show. They said it at nighttime on the NFL Network. So it was a pretty funny moment. Just when you hear these commercials, I mean, how many times, it's like the new Omaha when Peyton Manning, is on the field. You just hear these things and you're just like, hey, did he just say that? So that was kind of a funny moment. That was a great WTF, because you just didn't know if he actually said it, but if you go back and replay it, you can actually see that. A couple other things around the league, not just with the Steeler game, is that yesterday, as we're watching, the Browns play, which was, a sad game for them. They're now obviously 0-10. We see a player going into the back end zone, and as he's running, you just saw his foot just buckle. And everybody I was actually at brunch yesterday, and we're watching this in a big screen in a bar, and basically they were saying, oh, he Achilles. I'm like, no, he broke his foot. And they were just like, no, I don't. I'm going to look at it again. And red zone is tough because they don't always replay things you want to see. It's as soon as you see it, then they go to the next game. But then it was reported, right after that, he did break his foot. So I don't know the specific player, but definitely can look that up. That was really sad. You just knew he broke it. And then we always get the when I say we, and I mean the Steelers, I always put myself collectively in that group. I just, they're my team, they're our team, we're still Steeler Nation, and so it's hard for me not to always say we. I have to stop that. Shout out to our editor-in-chief Joe. He's like, no, we're not we. It's the Steelers, and then we're on the back part of that. But when I hear about the Steelers and how they play, and they play down to teams that are lesser than them, one of the biggest narratives that's out there is that the Steelers play down to, on the road, play down to bad teams. And so finally we got a decent team that played down to a bad team, and that's the AFC. Kansas City lost to the Giants, who won their second game of the season. And so that was finally a monkey off our back, that now we can just shift focus as far as teams that are not playing well when they should, and that would be Kansas City. And so they're definitely falling. They're still 6-4. They're still at the head of their division, but they're definitely falling fast with losing the 4 out of their last 5. It's interesting just them going, 5-0, and then they just lost their minds after that. They're just not playing with any, sense of purpose. So, I do like Kansas City. I do, but it's just interesting to see a team just so quickly go, the opposite direction. And then one of the biggest WTFs for everybody, sports media, everybody in the NFL just could not believe what the, Buffalo Bills did this week. There's got to be something, because if you remember when, Rex Ryan was the coach of that team, he was just not a Tyrod Taylor fan, which is their quarterback. And he was benched, then wasn't benched, and benched and wasn't benched. And that poor kid, give him an opportunity if you feel that he's going to be, one of the, I don't want to say the franchise quarterback, but if he's going to help this team win. And was he new back then? Yes. Was he making some mistakes? Of course. But when you look at what's out there and the quarterbacks that are actually playing, he's actually probably one of the top 20. I'd put him in the top 20. And that's saying something with all the backups we have out there right now that are trying to do, whatever they can for their team. But the Bills come into this week 5-4, and they're still in the wild card discussion, still in playoff discussion in their division. And the coach decides to bench Tyrod Taylor, which just made no sense to anybody. And so he gets benched, and they start Peterman, which is, a rookie quarterback, and they just throw him in there. And this is just sad, because he throws 5 interceptions. He gets benched, and I think the 5 interceptions actually came by the third quarter. I know that at least 4 was in the first half, and I think 3 were in the first quarter. But by the third quarter, you absolutely see Tyrod Taylor, warming up on the sideline, and then they have to bench the other guy who now has lost all his confidence. You've got to be thinking about the other, guys on the field, thinking, WTF, what are you doing? Talk about losing a locker room. And now you've got to go back to a quarterback that you said, hey, thanks for bringing us to a winning record, even though he had a bad game against, New Orleans last week. But now he's got to go in and try and figure out what to do against San Diego. And he does. He scores a couple touchdowns. He goes in and moves the ball. You just see such a more polished quarterback than, what the rookie that they put in. So to me, that was the biggest WTF of the week, just thinking, what is that coach thinking? That was just so wrong and on so many levels. And it's just not my opinion. There's a lot of media people out there just thinking, why did he do that? That was just weird. And then the Redskins. So as you know, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about it, because everybody, it seems, on social media thinks that Ben is going to retire either next year or within the next couple of years. And there's such a bandwagon out there for people wanting Kirk Cousins to come to the Steelers. I, for one, do not. I think that there's some flashes in Josh Dobbs that we can actually, maybe look at him as part of the future, maybe, or, as we look at the draft coming up, look and see who can sit behind Ben for hopefully a couple of years. Obviously, it's not Landry Jones. Landry is your quintessential backup, and, he knows the system. He's been there 4 or 5 years, and he's there just in case. He's not somebody that is going to take over the team. That's just silly. You see him out there just being a, pedestrian quarterback. I mean, that's just who Landry is. He doesn't have good, peripheral vision. He just basically throws the ball and then hands off the ball. He's just not a decision maker, like Ben is and like the elite quarterbacks. But you look at this, and when people talk about Kirk Cousins, I think it's just because there's nobody else out there. And, people are like, oh no, he's this clutch guy. He comes back. This quarterback gets lucky. And he gets lucky. Look at his games. He's not necessarily that clutch comeback guy. In the Redskins game yesterday, they gave up a 15-point lead to New Orleans, and there was another fourth quarter comeback by New Orleans now, who lead their division. And, it just, you can't give up that kind of lead. You've got to be able to make sure that, you keep that lead. Now, obviously, defense has something to do with it as well. But they give up this lead quite a bit, and now they're under 500 for their season. So I just don't see him as far as that clutch quarterback or ever a Steeler. please stop saying that. That's going to make me crazy. That's my WTF moment. I know if you have that opinion, feel free to comment on it. Put it out there when we put out our podcasts and our articles, but you will constantly see me on Twitter and on different social media saying, just stop. There's no Kirk Cousins coming to the Steelers. We're not fit for who he is, his system, the system that we have, and I just don't see that happening. And by the way, he's been franchised 2 years in a row at $20 million. He's going to want a fat contract in likes of Matt Stafford at over $100 million. So what you're really telling me is that Kirk Cousins is worth $100 million? Seriously? Yeah, that's a WTF moment right there. Then we have to talk about kickers. Kickers definitely had an interesting day yesterday. Two in particular. One, Connor Barth, who's the Bears kicker. He had to make a kick to basically would have tied the game and won the game, or helped to get them to the overtime area there. And he makes a kick that wasn't even close. Talk about wide right. It was wide right. It just, it was like he was aiming for somebody in the stands about, 5 feet right of that, of the upright. So that was really kind of a sad moment. Nobody was like, where are you kicking that to, dude? And then last night on Sunday Night Football, we have to talk about, their kicker, really in Philly. He was actually making a tackle on a run back that he made from a punt, and he ended up in concussion protocol. Well, they did not have a kicker then, so what they did is they used a linebacker to do kickoffs, which I thought was funny. But when he kicked the ball, he kicked it from way back in their own area, that all the way to almost within the 5 yards of the other team's end zone. And it was crazy. It was like a soccer kick. And all of us at home watching this are thinking, let's get that guy in there. Let's let him try to make a field goal. He obviously has the leg for it. But what their coach ended up saying was basically they weren't going to, it's Doug Peterson of Philly, they're not going to kick it out. They're not going to try extra points. They're not going to try field goals. They're basically going to go on fourth down, and then they're going to do extra 2 points for the conversions. And they did have to do two-point conversions, and they actually made both. So that's going to make them think about that, I think, as they move forward, thinking, that's a lot easier than we think it is. I think they're going to be doing a lot more of those, just because when you get forced into a situation, you have to. But, WTF moment there, you're just sitting there thinking, okay, we don't have a kicker. We've got an emergency backup, but what do we do? And just to put in a linebacker there, to me, was just kind of, it was just a funny moment. I look at that and I just think, okay, somebody was definitely thinking, well, we've definitely got to take a look at this in the future, because what are we going to do there? And, there's photos of all of this out there. You can see that incredible photo catch when you look at what AB did with that, helmet catch. And I wanted to bring that up because our sponsor, again, is our NFL Photoshop. And you want to make sure that, for any Steeler fans, that you can score photos of top plays and your favorite players. You want to visit steelers.photos.nfl.com, the team's official online photo store. You can find the largest selection of premium quality photos, canvases, and metal prints. New photos added every week. Use the code STEELCITY, STEELSCITY at checkout, and you'll get 25% off your order. And then this promo code is a one-time use, and you can use it from 11/13 to 12/31. So again, we appreciate the NFL Photoshop as our sponsor for our podcast here at Steel City Underground. So we had a lot more, information, a lot more things going on this weekend, but boy, those are some of the WTF moments that, if you have a chance to look at some of the highlights of the games, you definitely have to go look. Hopefully you're seeing what happened in the Steelers game last Thursday night, and we'll definitely keep you updated. Check out our article on WTF moments if we add some things there that we may not have covered in our podcast. But everybody have a great holiday week, and good happy Thanksgiving to you all, and be good, be safe, and we'll talk to you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.